Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Station Road. Today's going to be a quick video just going through and explaining this viaduct and how it came about, and also responding to the odd question in regards to whether or not this was or originated from a Metcalfe model. So the first answer is yes, it is a Metcalfe model that has been severely kit bashed. So what I'll do is I'll go through a process of dismantling this from the baseboard, which is, don't worry, this is completely fine. I currently have it set up at the moment so that it can be removed because there are still things to finish on the on this particular area of the layout, which includes some tarmac for the road and also shrubs and other bits and pieces that still have to be done. So it is here in a temporary manner. I did take some still photos during the production process of this area of the layout, but unfortunately I didn't actually cover every single step. So the first thing I'll do is we will set up the camera, and I will lift the track and we'll get this viaduct off the baseboard. Right, so here we have the viaduct, and essentially it's been built from one single Metcalfe viaduct kit, but then quite heavily adapted, and also some other materials have been added for the to give it extra strength and rigidity. So it's quite a solid construction, and essentially what the other materials are, all the substructure materials are MDF. So we have this is your standard MDF. I think this might be a 2.5 or 3 mil MDF, and I generally find this very handy for building models of this type because it's far more rigid than cardboard. But also not so rigid enough that it can't be cut with a craft knife in order to get a nice clean cut. Also used in there is a heavier weight MDF, so this might be 5 or 6 mil MDF. So that might be for the vertical upright sections and so forth, depending on really sort of how much weight bearing there might be on the particular model. So yeah, these are great materials in terms of just adding substance to a kit. So essentially, if we turn this over, we have a look underneath there, you'll see essentially how it's made. So well, as much as I can possibly show you. So we have the MDF strips down either side. We have that then braced with the actual Metcalfe card is braced either side. This is all actually hollow right through up to the deck at the top. So, and then down at this end we have the same situation. Now the card is on the outer faces of this because essentially it is going to curve better in terms of getting that curve that runs through across either way. So the other interesting thing about this layout is it's not a consistent curve. So not only does the actual curve increase in radius as it goes along. So here the curve is shallow, and then it progressively gets tighter and tighter. The other aspect to it, it is also actually not level either. So it is actually higher at this end than it is at this end because it is also on a gradient. So in terms of its sort of structure, you'd think, well, that sounds really complex, and how on earth would you go about doing this? But the funny thing is, it's actually relatively simple process. And so this is the deck, which of course is the MDF, and I think I may have actually used, this might be, I'm pretty sure I've used the 5 or 6 mil MDF on the actual deck structure. So and then of course that is mapped out just simply by laying rails in the correct alignment so that I can then work out what the curvature of the actual viaduct is. Now the other peculiar thing about it, unlike a viaduct, a curved viaduct that possibly might have the pillars or the columns perpendicular to the actual point of the radius. So you might have one here, then there'll be one there, and as you go around, the actual pillars are perpendicular to the radius, so that you would get the fanned out effect of the actual archways underneath. Now I didn't do that in this situation, which may or may not be architecturally accurate, but mostly the viaduct is seen from the outer curve, from this end, from this side, as opposed to from the inside, which is up against the hill. But when looking at it underneath, of course, you actually see, of course, that the pillars are all actually in parallel with each other. So in effect, you end up with these unusual shaped arches that actually run in underneath. And as you can see, I don't know whether you can see that, the brickwork also actually aligns with the sort of isometric arch, which is what that shape actually more or less forms. So it is quite unusual in that sense. So yeah, and then the finishing touches, which I still haven't quite finished yet. I have added in some, I don't know whether you can see that there's just a little bit of weathering and so forth under there. You've got the streaky marks that were often quite common on the underside of arches, and of course I have weathered it with powders. It has also had a clear coat matte finish that has been sprayed over the entire structure. So, and then of course I've begun to add bits of foliage and overgrownness in order to sort of complete the overall effect. So that's pretty much that part of it. Now I'll head back over to the location of where this came from, and describe as best as I can how I actually went about doing this, plus also some photos that I will pop up that show it at the latter stages of the construction. So here we have the location of where the viaduct was positioned. Now you might be able to just sort of pick out in here, if I zoom in there, this entire section of the hill is actually made out of polystyrene sheet, or that it's very dense sort of foam. The whole hill is actually built up around the viaduct, so the viaduct was actually in position before the hill was actually constructed. This is actually a method that I saw Charlie use at Chadwick Model Railway, and I thought that this would probably be the best, most appropriate way of actually carrying out this part of the layout. So you'll see in here that where the track buttresses, we have a solid MDF buttress, and also down at the other end, once again, solid buttress there. Now the curvature and how that was actually reached was that before anything else happened, I actually laid this upper level of track bed, and it was arranged and marked out for the curvature and so forth, aligned with the track. And then once I'd decided where I wanted to position the actual viaduct, I then actually cut through the track bed in order to create this end here, and create that end there, and then the section that I actually cut out was then the foundation for the actual viaduct, and then from there the heat levels and the heights were built up on the actual legs or foundation of the viaduct to create the correct height. So I found that method a great way of assembling this particular area of the layout, and it's effective. So if you have any questions about the kit bashing of this Metcalfe Viaduct, please don't hesitate to add your comments into this video, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Also, a huge thank you actually before I go to all the new subscribers, and for all those who haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and of course you will get notifications of my next video. So until next time, we will see you later. Cheers. Bye.